It's Monday, November 16th. I'm Lucy Steiner.
And I'm Sam Cedar. Which of these stories will you be talking about today?
The United States recorded over 1 million coronavirus cases in a single week. A vaccine may be right on the horizon, but we're in for a brutal winter without leadership and federal funding. Meanwhile, Trump slips up and half admits that Joe Biden won the election, but refuses to concede as his supporters throw a pitiful, violent rally on the streets of Washington, D.C. And lastly, Mitch McConnell continues his lifelong quest to pack the judiciary with hard-right judges, and he's still grinding nominations through the Senate nearly every day, while Senate Democrats still look for, quote, compromise.
You are listening to Majority FM's AM Quickie, and these are the stories you need to know.
The United States passed a grim new milestone this week. Over 1 million coronavirus cases in 7 days. 1 week ago, there were 10 million confirmed cases. Now there are 11. The dramatic, horrific spike comes at the worst possible time as national leadership continues to squabble over the results of the 2020 election. And like most crises, the effects of the current spike are being felt worse by working-class Americans and people of color. The New York Times reports that CDC numbers show Latino, Native, and Black Americans being hospitalized around 4 times as often as white people. The only positive is that the death rate appears to be lower than the spring and summer's deadly peaks, although it is rising fast in many states. The data does indicate that the virus is seasonal, meaning the long, cold, wet winter months are going to be particularly brutal. Once we're out on the other side, there is some hope, though. Experts predict a vaccine could be ready for emergency use as early as next month. But the problem then becomes distribution, and the Times reports that hurting states and cities don't have the resources to make it happen. This is a problem that good leadership could untangle, but the Trump administration doesn't appear to be in any way willing to help. Trump has blocked his coronavirus team from working with Biden's task force, which could make the transition of power in January even more chaotic. The burden of levying new restrictions on social distancing and businesses is now going to fall onto local and state leaders, which means how you fare this winter has a lot to do with where you live and who's in charge. Take care as best you can. Meanwhile, in the big baby house on the Washington Mall, President Trump almost slipped up and acknowledged that Joe Biden beat him in the presidential election earlier this month. In a tweet on Sunday morning, Trump said, quote, he won because the election was rigged, unquote. Well, at least half that sentence is true. The rest of the tweet was more conspiratorial lies, of course. But it's at least a small sign that Trump may be slowly coming out of his denial phase. There's still little chance he'll actually concede, but as his idiotic lawsuits over supposed fraudulent voting aren't making much headway, the new plan is to contend the whole thing was rigged from the start. We'll see how that plan plays out in court. Seeing as Trump's legal challenges are being led by Rudy Giuliani, we aren't too worried. On Friday, for instance, 9 of Trump's lawsuits were denied or dropped by courts. And this week promises to be more of the same. The more troubling situation is what the president's supporters are doing. Over the weekend, right-wing militias, including the Proud Boys, congregated in Washington for a, quote, 1 million MAGA march. After clashing with leftist counter-protesters, at least 1 person was stabbed and 20 were arrested. A freelance reporter was also injured in one of the clashes, and video shows right-wing militia members chasing down anti-fascist protesters in the street, often instigating fights. Trump has animated a section of the far right in ways no one has before, so we should get ready for a whole lot more of this over the next few months, and potentially even after Biden takes office. And while all of this is happening, the dirty grind of Mitch McConnell's great political project continues unchecked. Thus far, McConnell has confirmed 53 of Trump's picks for circuit judges and 164 district judges, not to mention 3 Supreme Court justices. According to Newsweek, he could add another dozen to that tally before Trump leaves office. And even once Biden gets in, McConnell still has the votes to shoot down anyone Biden puts forward. On Thursday, McConnell moved forward with another 6 judicial nominees, who could see full floor votes this week. Remember, the Senate could be spending this legislative time trying to pass relief bills for the ongoing pandemic, but they're not. And Democrats seem woefully unprepared to change this devastating reign of power. In an interview with CNN on Saturday, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin said his focus is on finding compromise with Senate Republicans. Quote, that's where the potential is for the future, with Republicans who are ready for the Senate to be active, engaged, and finding compromises and moving forward, unquote. It begs the question, what planet are these people living on? McConnell has spent the past 6 years refusing to compromise in any way since he got a Senate majority in the 2014 midterms. If Democrats don't wake up and realize they need to play hardball soon, the Biden years are just going to be another chapter of wasted potential.
And now, for some quicker quickies.
Quicker quickie.
Boris Johnson is self-isolating after being exposed to coronavirus. Again, Johnson survived his own first case of the disease back in April, but had to be hospitalized. SpaceX, the private spaceflight company founded by overly rich provocateur Elon Musk, successfully launched a crewed rocket and capsule on Sunday, sending 4 astronauts into orbit, where they will eventually link up with the ISS sometime on Monday night. After a hasty peace deal that let Azerbaijani troops and Russian so-called peacekeepers flood into ethnic Armenian areas, fleeing civilians burned their own homes as they sought refuge behind Armenia's borders. Business Insider obtained new video that shows the fake Postal Service whistleblower swore to his affidavit alleging voter fraud while in the same room as the founder of far-right hit job site Project Veritas. The whistleblower later recanted his claims and said he made it up.
Quicker quickie.
That's it for the Majority Report's AM Quickie today. Stay tuned for the full show with Sam later.